What's up guys, this is Marcus from ROCKMETALBANDS. Welcome to the video review of Slaughter of the Soul by At the Gates. As it often happens with the third or fourth album from a big band, this has been a very controversial record for the Swedish masters, in that it divided the audience into definitely. There were some people who consider this record a complete failure because they got rid of all the particular elements of the previous three albums, while there are some people, including me, who think that they've just made their songs shorter, sharper, and they have uncluttered them to the bone. There are other two bands that have made what is called Melodic DeathMetal or new wave of Swedish death metal, or even melodic metalcore, Dark Tranquility and In Flames. As to In Flames, it is referred in particular to their first two albums. But we have to say that they are not a copy of Dark Tranquility or At the Gates, because they've always had more acoustic folk guitars. While Dark Tranquility's The Gallery is a masterpiece, but it's more on the technical side of riffs. So even if they come from the same city, Gothenburg, it doesn't mean that they've copied each other. What is good in Slaughter of the Soul is the use of the finest melodies and harmonies from heavy metal and thrash metal, incorporated in their style, which is not much death metal actually. There is a lot of thrash metal galloping, and also the singing is very particular. Thomas Tompa Lindberg has used a kind of semi-black metal shriek, something not too far from hardcore, but darker and more intense. And this is something that we can say has influenced singers such as Mille Petrozza in Creator's most recent albums. So even if you're new to death metal, or you are a veteran who started from the old school death metal, I think you will be able to appreciate all these qualities within Slaughter of the Soul. Now let's move to the package. The version in my hands is a reissue of the album. It was released originally in '95. My version came out in 2002, and it contains 6 bonus tracks. One is The Dying, and that completes the studio sessions. It was excluded from the original album, unfortunately. Then there are 2 cover versions from Slayer and Slaughterlord, and then there is a cover from No Security, a Swedish punk band. This is the only Swedish song that At the Gates have ever played. And then we have 2 demo songs, Suicide Nation and Unto Others, released in 1995. It's very interesting that one of them was refused by a big European label, and I wonder what they thought after the big success which came out after the release of Slaughter of the Soul. Anyway, as to the visual aspect, we have to say that inside the cardboard we find a classical tray with a 12-page booklet, and the front cover features a wooden icon holding a Bible with runic letters, surrounded probably by a mountainous landscape. And then scattered all around we have guns, bullets, a metal chain, projects, calculations and things like that. Inside we find the lyrics, but in this version we also find comments from guitarist Anders Björler. Very interesting because they lead to the understanding of the genesis of every song. And then in the final pages we have some photographs. They have all been affected. For example, we have one which is blurred, another in motion, and another has been treated with a particular light. Then the last page of the booklet, of the tray and of the cardboard contain an image which is not clear intentionally. We can see either a man who is headbanging and holding a guitar or a bass in front of a metallic net, or a man without a head holding a scepter in his left hand. For what concerns the trivia of the album, according to the band, at the gates were left stranded in England at the end of an English tour by their label Peaceville, because there were no funds to have them fly back to Sweden. When they signed with Eric treated them much better in that it gave them more freedom and twice the money that they had earlier with their previous albums, so that they could record their fourth album, which is Slaughter of the Soul. And the results are in front of everybody's eyes, not only because they've been able to accompany a track with a video shot in London, or because they had the guest appearance of Andy LaRoque in one of the tracks, but also because they spent more time in a studio. We can say, for instance, that in Suicide Nation the scream suicide was repeated 4 times at 4 different distances to obtain an approaching effect. Or it's interesting that the introductory go to the title track was repeated 40 times before band and producer were satisfied. As to the lyrics, we have to say that they were all written by Thomas Tolpa Lindberg, and they are well conceived, they are meaningful, and also very pessimistic, but we can say that they elevate the band because they detach most of the times themselves from the usual death metal themes. If we move now to the engineering, we have to say that the 11 original tracks were recorded at the Studio Friedman in Göteborg by Fredrik Norström in May and July 1995. It's a very good recording because even nowadays it's still fresh and involving, and it seems recorded yesterday. It's not perfect since the bass is a bit buried and not separate from the other bass tracks, but this is typical for Scandinavian recordings. And also the hi-hat is sometimes a bit choked and artificial, but only at low volumes, and this is something very finicky that 99% of people won't complain about. As to the track-by-track musical analysis, I want to tell you that you can read it in the detailed review on our official website shown below. Now I just want to mention a few tracks for you. First of all, the opener Blinded by Fear makes everything clear. The guitars are in B tuning, the songs are short, sharp, and they know what they're doing, and Thomas' voice is really in good shape, and he's not straining his voice, he just has a lot of energy, and I think that together with the killer tone, when the production focuses on his voice, then it's when they get the best of the two worlds. This song was the last one that they created together with this lineup. It's an exception because the other tracks needed much more time, while this was created during the rehearsals before the recording in just half an hour. Sometimes the best things come out just like that. Another song I want to mention is Cold, not only because of Andy LaRoque's neoclassical shredding, which is gorgeous and gives more quality to the band with his vibrating technique, but also because there are very powerful drums that create tension before this solo kicks off. The title track is also very interesting, but there is also another highlight, which is an instrumental track. In this case, it's Into the Dead Sky. This song contains an arpeggio, and then there is a second guitar and a bass that come in just later, as well as phaser drums. I know it doesn't sound anything special, but you have to believe me, the Scandinavians, when they go acoustic, nobody can equal them because they are able to create enchanted melodies. It's really a very beautiful track, and it's my second personal highlight. Suicide Nation is introduced by Gun Cocking. This was completely ripped off from the flick Reservoir Dogs. After that, it starts with a demolishing riff a la Contra, and then there's a tom-tom roll followed by taut open thrash metal riffs in chromatic scales, followed by melodeath riffs. Then we have World of Lies, which is influenced by stoner doom metal hard rock bands such as The Obsessed and Trouble, and it also contains interesting tribal drumming. Then we have Nausea. Nausea is different than the others as it is the most wicked track. It's because it's pure Swedish death metal, so it's an old school track, and many people really like it, me included, because it gives an old flavor within the new frame that they've been able to create. Another interesting song is The Flames of the End. This song is made of industrial noises. It's a very creepy one. Kind of reminds me something that Napalm Death used to play in their older singles, in their remixes. It's very different than the others, and it was originally planned to be the soundtrack of one of Anders' no-budget horror movies, but in the end it closed the original album. One more track I want to talk to you about is the bonus track The Dying. This song was excluded because the band thought that it was too diverse to appear together with the others. In this case, I disagree with the band because I think that it would blend perfectly within Slaughter of the Soul. All the more reason if they have decided to include a composition like The Flames of the End. In relation to the value of the album, there are some people who say that this is just a collection of 11 songs, very similar one to another, which are uninspired and good as background music for lifting weights. My opinion is all the contrary. I believe that At the Gates have never been in this shape, they have never been so inspired, and even if they are still active and Tompa's voice is still powerful, he's not able to reach those ear-piercing highs. So I think that if you want to get the best of At the Gates, if you want to find them at the top of shape and inspiration, you have to start from this album. Besides the original versions when the album was released on November 14th, 1995, CD, vinyl and cassette. Through the years there have been several more versions, 12-inch vinyl, digital of course, several CD versions, sometimes slipcase, sometimes double CD. I think my version is interesting because of the 6 bonus tracks, but there is also another seducing version which is remastered in full dynamic range, and this gives even more under the audio aspect because it makes the songs even closer to what they were originally intended when they were recorded. In conclusion, we have to say that Slaughter of the Soul was a breakthrough album for At the Gates, but it had a bittersweet effect. On one hand, it gave the members financial security because it sold very much, and it opened them doors to world tours of unexpected proportions. On the other hand, the tight schedule for the tours and the pressure from Earache Records to release a new album because the label wanted to exploit the good moment, the popularity that they had gained. All of this put so much strain on the band that at one point, at the peak of their career, Anders Björler left the band. The band split a few months later because the 4 remaining members didn't know what to do. The only thing that they knew was that they didn't want to exploit their fans with a copy album. The problem is that they all wanted to pursue different musical directions, and so it was impossible to go on under the At the Gates umbrella. Luckily, after their respective egos were satisfied with other bands of success, such as The Haunted, the members reunited in 2007, and they started playing some shows, and in the end the chemistry was so good again that they also released new albums. Luckily, they are still of good quality, and this is good because in doing so they haven't tarnished their reputation built with 4 studio albums. Slaughter of the Soul is just so simple, unpretentious, bludgeoning, that it still wins the test of time. Even after almost 30 years, it's still so fresh and involving. That's why it's become a pioneering album that many people have taken as an example, and it has influenced the melodic death metal band so much. Unfortunately, not because of the band, there have been also metalcore bands that until the end of the 90s just made scarcely talented copycat albums, but we cannot blame At the Gates for this. So if you want the complete review, I submit you click the link shown below. And if you like this video review, please like us, comment under this video. If you want, you can also subscribe to this channel to be informed about the next video reviews. Thanks for your attention. To the next one, guys.